Welcome to Pretty Delicate Conversations, the podcast where softness and strength coexist. I'm your host, Sadie, and every 15th, we explore what it means to live honestly, beautifully, and unapologetically. This is your space for honest, feminine, unfiltered conversations. So, let's chat. Wow! Welcome to Pretty Delicate Conversations. I can't believe we are finally here with episode 1. I am so excited, but I'm also very nervous because I am not sure how this podcast will be perceived. I don't know how you guys will react or what your thoughts and opinions will be about it. But I mean, that's kind of inevitable. When you start something new, you're not gonna know. So you just gotta try, see how you like it, see how it goes, and just, manifest and hope for the best, obviously. And that's what I'm doing. So mostly I am excited because I feel like I've been holding on to this for a little while. It's been something I've been stewing on for at least like this last 6 months, I would say. And I recently started dropping hints about a podcast and that I was interested in one, all mostly on Instagram. I was kind of like, hey, what would you think if I started a podcast? And then it kind of turned into, hey, I think I'm actually going to drop a podcast. And I have actually created a podcast account on Instagram. You can follow the podcast at Pretty Delicate Conversations. I did recently make my first feed post, and honestly, the reaction and feedback on that was overwhelmingly so positive, and I really have to say thank you. I am so grateful for that. You guys had a lot of words of encouragement, so many kind things to say, and genuinely a pretty positive reaction and kind of excitement for this podcast. And that really lifted my spirits because, you get in your head sometimes and you're not entirely sure on something because obviously we don't know the outcome, but I really felt reassured by all the sweet things that you all had to say, and it made me even more motivated to get this episode out to you guys. So here we are, episode 1, Pretty Delicate Conversations. Leading up to this exact moment has been a roller coaster of emotions, excitement, nervousness, but at the end of the day, it really does just feel right. Like I said, I've been dropping hints here and there, and now that we are here, I feel like it is time that I open up a little bit more. I want to take you guys back and dive a little deeper into how I got here, divulge a little bit more on the lore of my content creation journey as far as like what shaped me as a creator and the path that led me to this very exact moment. So how I got into content creating is very simple. That is just me in a nutshell. I'm a very creative person, and when I learned that content creation was a thing, I immediately said, that sounds like something I would definitely enjoy doing. I started playing piano when I was 5. I've been singing since I was like 3, and I songwrite a lot. I started doing that in like elementary school. I have written my own songs, performed them, and I love to act. I've been in a lot of school plays, and I love to write. I have so many journals, it's not even funny. Like, I have journals dating back to 7th grade. And I also just have loved English. That was like my favorite subject in school. And like I said, I love to write, and I've written stories as young as elementary and then kind of progressed over time into actual chapters and potential books. But obviously I never like took it too seriously. Like, it was just for my enjoyment. So I probably never made it past chapter 5. But as of recent, I have decided to do something this time, and I plan on publishing my very first book. So I'm very excited about that. And I've been working very hard on it. I'm 15 chapters in already, and I can't wait to finish the book and publish it for you guys to consume and give me feedback on. But I don't want to talk too much about that in this episode. But basically what I'm trying to get at is I've just been very creative my whole life, and I enjoy dabbling in a little bit of everything. I like to say my creativity is ADHD creativity. I have to do a little bit of everything, and it all has to be done at the same time. I can never just solely focus on one thing. I'm always doing multiple things. And I don't know, sometimes it's fun and other times it's very stressful to live my life like that, but I can't help it, okay? It is just me. That is who I am. I have accepted it, and I try to create a balance for myself, but you know, it's a work in progress. I got my start with content creation on Instagram. That is the platform that I solely focused on before branching off. And I started my content creation journey in 2019. I want to say 2019 to 2021, those were the prime years for Instagram. I feel like that's when it was at its peak. That's when it had its most popularity. Everyone was on Instagram during that time frame. And I started my journey off as a canna mom. Yes, I was a cannabis content creator. I was very into the cannabis community. I still am. Like, cannabis has just been a very big part of my life for many years. And because I enjoy cannabis and advocate for the benefits of cannabis, I thought this was like the perfect niche for me. I knew so much about it. I was well adversed. I literally smoke it myself, and I have a medical marijuana card, and at the time I also had one because this was when I lived in Florida that I was creating this kind of content. And so I had a medical marijuana card in Florida as well, and I was just like, this is perfect. Like, I really feel like this could be my niche. So that is what I went with. And the cannabis community, I feel like, was super big during that time frame as well. And everyone was doing and performing so well with their content during this time. And that's kind of the same for me. That's when my content really was being pushed on Instagram, and I was gaining a lot of attraction and followers and engagement. And it was a really fun time. Like, I was getting a bunch of brand deals and brand collaborations, PR packages, like the whole works through my cannabis niche. And I made a lot of new friends and connections through the cannabis community. And overall, like, I had so much fun creating content. But then there came a point where it almost felt performative or forced, and then it wasn't so much fun anymore, and I was trying to pull away from posting cannabis content. And I feel like that shift kind of happened towards, 2020, when COVID became a thing and people were transitioning over to TikTok, and like that was everyone's favorite go-to app anymore, and Instagram itself was kind of dying off. And I felt the shift in myself as well as on Instagram and the cannabis community, that things were changing and evolving. And I felt the same for myself. I felt like the cannabis content was fun in the beginning, and I had a lot of growth from it and met a lot of new people from it. But my personal journey was headed in a completely different direction. While I'm still a 420 girly, I didn't want to publicly post about it anymore, and I wanted to switch to lifestyle content creation and more like fun, girly, aesthetic content, because that was kind of the shift in me personally, was like, that's kind of where I was headed, and that's kind of where I saw more potential for my content. It was just figuring out how to get to that point, because it feels impossible to leave the cannabis space once you are that deep into it, because there's always well, I would probably lose a lot of followers because they all came for the cannabis content, and no one is going to like my transition into lifestyle content. And that is obviously something that a lot of cannabis creators struggle with. They are too afraid to leave because they're worried they won't have the same kind of engagement and following. But like, they also want to do it because that aligns more with them as a person than creating content that is only enjoyable for their followers. It's not even enjoyable for themselves. And that's where I was. It was no longer fun for me. I was just making what I thought everybody else wanted to see on my page. And I made the change to lifestyle, girly content, and I have never looked back. I am very happy and very established in my niche nowadays, and I love it because it really truly aligns with me as a person. And the other thing is, like, I love my 420 girlies, but I wanted to be able to connect and relate with all the girlies, not just the 420 girlies. So broadening that space did wonders. And yes, I lost followers because they were only there for cannabis content, but that's okay, because I regained those followers with new ones who align with the content I'm posting. So you lose some, but you gain some. It's just the cycle of content creating. And I still kept a lot of 420 girlies from when I was in my Canamom era that followed me to my lifestyle era, and they love what I post, and they are actively commenting and liking my posts and engaging and supporting me. So it's not all bad and it's not all scary. Like, change can be such a good thing, and you shouldn't be afraid of it. You should just embrace it. And a lot of the back and forth, like, should I not, it stems from being a female. We inevitably and unintentionally like to compare ourselves to other women, especially when they are in a similar niche as us. We look at them like, wow, they're doing so great. Like, how come my stuff isn't performing as well? And like, you know, oh, she's obviously way prettier than me. She has a better body than me. Blah, blah, blah. The list goes on. We really need to get out of that habit of comparing ourselves to other women and comparing our timelines to other people's timelines. Like, it's just so toxic and very unhealthy for our mental health to be doing all of that. And we'll touch on that a little bit more in just a second, but that's kind of where all of my stuff stemmed from as far as getting started with content creation. And so much of that journey, figuring out who I am, what I actually enjoy creating, and letting go of that pressure to perform has led me right here. That's why this podcast feels so aligned. It has led me to be able to have the conversations that I've been craving, and that is real, raw, honest, and totally unfiltered conversations. And if you're wondering what that actually looks like moving forward, I want to share with you what you can actually expect from this podcast in the future. These first 3 episodes, you're going to hear from me. We're going to talk more in depth about me, my story, my background, and just kind of opening up to you guys so that you can get to know me a little bit better. I feel like I haven't really done that at all, really, on my channel. I just kind of upload my videos and that's about it. I might have some personal moments here and there, but I don't feel like we've gone in depth with who I am as a person and my background and stuff. So I feel like that would be kind of fun to share. I mean, this is honest, feminine, and unfiltered. So I want to give you guys an honest conversation about myself so that you guys are more familiar with me and who I am, and we can kind of have a more intimate connection, because I feel like that kind of helps when you know more about the person that you're watching and listening to. And eventually, I would like to branch off and evolve the podcast into a more interview style podcast where I can have other women come onto the podcast, interview them, and ask all kinds of questions about their success stories and how they got where they are, the highs, the lows, the successes, the failures, everything in between, because I feel like that can open so many doors to so many different conversations. And I kind of want the vibes of the podcast to be motivational and inspirational. And I feel like having that kind of interview style on this podcast would do wonders. And I want to talk to other women about what it means to be a woman in an industry. And it doesn't matter what industry they are in, whether they're content creators themselves or a businesswoman or a business owner, and the list goes on. So I want to have those conversations here, and I think it would be beneficial to you as a listener and a viewer to hear those conversations as well. I know I have a lot of younger viewers, and I know when I was younger, like 18, and even in my early 20s, trying to figure out what it is I want to do, I feel like these are conversations that could really ignite some sort of spark and interest for you to hear, like, oh wow, she can do it, I can do it. And that's kind of like the whole vibe of this podcast, and the whole reason behind it is to uplift, motivate, and inspire other women to be the best version of themselves, because it is possible. So that is a little sneak peek into what you can expect from the podcast, a little insight into future episodes, real, raw, honest conversations with women who inspire me and hopefully will inspire you too. But obviously it will be a little bit before I can get guests onto the podcast, but don't worry, I have a list, and I am manifesting that we can get everyone on my list to have a seat and chit chat with me for a little bit and share their story. But before we get into all the future episodes that are to come, I wanted to essentially set the tone for today's episode with a little soft girl talk, because honestly, that is essentially the entire vibe and energy that we are going to have revolve around this podcast. So we might as well. So let's talk about all the things I'm unlearning in my 30s. For anyone who is new, I am 30 years old. I just turned 30. Well, not just, but I turned 30 in January this year. And I have come to a realization that there is a lot of things that I need to unlearn, or that I need to continue unlearning, because, there are some toxic, not so great habits and routines that we kind of create over time, and eventually we learn that, maybe that wasn't the best and we need to unlearn from those things. And I thought that would be something great to talk about and to kind of be more open with you guys about me. So I guess we'll start off with being the strong one. I feel like this one is going to be one that a lot of you can relate to, and it's not just me. So I thought this would be a great way to open this conversation. Personally, I used to wear strength as like a badge of honor. I was the one that was always put together, and I was the person that everybody could lean on. But being the strong one usually means suppressing your feelings and putting other people's needs before your own, and also never asking for help. I've realized that strength doesn't mean carrying everything alone. It's about knowing when to let go, to lean, and to be soft. Vulnerability is strength too. And I think that we see it and view it as a weakness, but not necessarily. So now I'm learning to say I'm not okay out loud and ask for help when I need it. I'm learning to lean on others and to understand that I don't have to lead all the time, which leads me into the next topic of overperforming femininity. I think that is another thing that some of us can relate to, and another great conversation to talk about. I feel like there is this pressure to be the perfect woman, to be polished, soft-spoken, put together, likable. And I feel like that is a very toxic standard to live by, and I don't think that that defines femininity at all. Overperforming femininity is being the ideal woman for others, as in always being done up, emotionally accommodating, saying yes when you really want to say no. That's a big one for me that I am still unlearning to this day. I think that one is one of the toughest things to unlearn, because for so long you have created a shell of yourself so that others can feel better. In my 20s, I thought being feminine meant being agreeable and cute all the time. But now I know my femininity can be bold, loud, raw, and even angry. I know that I don't owe anyone anything, especially a perfect packaged version of myself, because it's not realistic. My worth isn't how delicate or dainty I appear. It's with how real I allow myself to be. And I hope that that resonates with you. And next, I want to talk about doing everything alone. That kind of ties into the first bullet point of being the strong one. Because being the strong one meant doing everything alone. And that's not true. I used to really pride myself on being super independent to a fault. I don't need anyone was my motto that I lived by religiously. And I think we are all kind of guilty of doing that at some point in our lives. And honestly, this probably stems from childhood conditioning, trust issues, or from even wanting to prove yourself, which I feel like That is definitely a big one for me. I was always constantly trying to prove myself, and that's a very toxic habit to get into. What I didn't realize was that my hyper independence was just unresolved trauma in disguise. Nowadays, I'm leaning into softness. I'm asking for help, and I'm building a community. Because doing life alone isn't empowering, it's exhausting. I've learned that support doesn't make me weak, it makes me whole. The next topic I mentioned earlier, and that's comparing your timeline to other people's timelines. We shouldn't be doing that. And I'm very much guilty of that. And I've learned to just let that go. Because there's no need to do that whatsoever. And there's a lot of expectations that you should be doing this and have this and be that by the time you turn 30. And realistically, that's just not true. You move at your own pace. Everyone is going in separate directions. And everyone gets to where they are going in their own time frame. No one's journey is the same, and it's a different experience for everyone. For me, I see a lot of my childhood friends who have great careers, driving really nice cars, and they're doing so well that I'm like, dang, I feel like I should be where they are, and I'm not, and I don't really know how I'm going to get there. But also, they are in a different direction than me, and that's okay. And I have to accept that that is okay, otherwise it will consume me. When I see my childhood friends, how successful they are, a lot of times I look at it and I'm like, I feel like a failure, and I feel like I failed my parents. Like, my parents probably see them and they're like, dang, why couldn't that have been my kid? Like, I don't know. It really is such a negative and toxic thing to be worried about, and that is definitely why it is on my list. I feel like this one is definitely super, super relatable for everyone, because everyone at some point has gone through this experience, and it sucks. It really does suck. What I've learned is that peace comes when you trust your own pace. Your journey isn't supposed to look like someone else's. So I'm letting go of chasing what success looks like in someone else's journey and choosing what feels right for me. And that's what you should do too. These are just a few of the things that I'm unlearning, but they've opened up such a huge space for self-love, growth, and softness. If you're in your 30s, or even in your 20s or 40s, I want to hear from you. I want to know some of the things that you're unlearning, because I think it would be great to hear from you and for others to hear from you, because I'm sure there are so many of us that could relate to some of the things that you're also unlearning. I also feel like this conversation really ties into the name of the podcast. While it does have a play off of my small business, Pretty Delicates, I also feel like it's such a fitting name for the types of conversations that are to be had on this podcast. Pretty but delicate, delicate but strong. You know, it all ties in together. Unlearning all of that, being the strong one, overperforming femininity, doing everything alone, and comparing timelines. It's all been a journey, and it continues to be a journey. And it's conversations like that I think truly inspired the name Pretty Delicate Conversations. Because we're soft and strong, delicate and powerful. And I know for a fact that I'm not the only one who is navigating this. So that's why I want to open up this space to you too. I'd love to start featuring some of your stories, your moments, those pretty delicate reflections that deserve to be heard. And that is why I've created a little segment called Pretty Delicate Moments. This is my listener submission idea, and we'll see how well this goes over. I do hope you guys are open-minded to it, but I think it could be really fun and, something to add to the podcast where you feel more included. Basically, Pretty Delicate Moments is where you can share your success stories. You're able to ask for advice if you need any, or you can submit little stories about things you're healing from. Whatever it is you want to share, this is a safe space for you to do that. And you can submit anonymously. I am happy to, share your story without publicly saying who it came from, if that is the route that you want to take. And obviously, if you don't mind me sharing your name with the other listeners, then I'm happy to do that as well. So you can submit for a pretty delicate moment by sending a DM to the Pretty Delicate Conversations Instagram account. And obviously, if you want it to be anonymous, just make sure to mention that when you submit it. But yeah, send a DM to Pretty Delicate Conversations on Instagram, and I would love to share your story. And I am excited to see who will be the first Pretty Delicate Moment. I'm genuinely excited to create a safe space for your guys' stories to be heard, because it's not just about me sitting down with a microphone or me sitting down and interviewing other successful women. It's also about you, and I want you to feel included in this. And that's why I thought creating Pretty Delicate Moments as a little segment to end each podcast with was such a fun and unique idea to get you guys involved in these episodes. And I genuinely want to hear from you as well and have you be a part of the podcast. And I thought this was a fun way to do that. So with that, I just want to say thank you for being here. Truly, it means the world to me, and I can't believe we made it through episode 1. And just to reiterate, this is a safe space for the girlies, okay? I don't want anyone feeling unwelcomed or anything of that nature. You are welcome to be here if you want to be, and I'm happy to have you, so thank you. Be sure to like this episode, subscribe to my channel, and share this episode so that more people are aware of the new podcast and can potentially tune in for the next one. Leave a comment down below. Give the podcast a review. What do we think of episode 1? You'll have to let me know down below. I can't wait to hear from you guys. And also, just a quick reminder, send a DM to Pretty Delicate Conversations on Instagram if you want to be the first girly featured on Pretty Delicate Moments. I think this ended up being a great first episode, and I hope that you guys really did enjoy it, and I can't wait to continue the conversation in the comments with you guys. I love you guys so much, and thank you again for being here. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye!